In the last video, we saw how simple programming actually is. The environment shown here is Visual Studio Code, or VS Code for short. Here you can see a more realistic version of it. Over here is the text editor. Looks a bit different from a document editor, right? All of the text uses the same mono-spaced font, with no variation in font size, but is much more colorful, thanks to a feature called syntax highlighting. When you type, the pop-up here is the autocomplete feature. It predicts and suggests the rest of what you're typing, so that your coding speed and experience are improved. And if I run the code, the program runs in the terminal here on the right. VS Code is rather modern, so it offers many features, such as File Explorer, Find and Replace, Source Control, debugging, extensions, testing, and many options for customization. This type of environment, designed specifically for a programmer, is called an Integrated Development Environment, or IDE for short. There are so many different IDEs. How an environment looks or what it does might depend on the individual programmer or the project they're working on. For example, this dude's building a website. His setup looks clean as hell, right? Then we have this guy who's making a game. His environment looks quite different from what we've seen so far, since it's actually a full-blown game engine. And for our last example, we have a mobile development environment. This is cool and all, but please don't use light mode. Okay, I know that you're very excited, and you can't wait to look into these yourself. But in my opinion, some features such as the debugger, source control, or plugins are a bit overkill for novices. I wouldn't recommend spending your whole day trying to set up the best IDE ever, instead of actually learning to code. Except, if the plugin is absolutely vital to your workflow, like this one. Honestly though, I do think that a code editor and compiler is all you need to get started. That's why in the article, we got access to 2 simple environments, without the need to install anything. The first one looks like this. We have a text editor. You can play around with the code however you'd like. Then a run button, which acts as the compiler and executes the code. And finally, the terminal, right below. The second one is mostly the same, besides 2 additional functionalities. First, different versions of the code are saved, meaning you can keep making modifications and see how they affect the output. And second, you can activate a steppable program of the cell, meaning you can watch variables, output, and other data change line by line. This is extremely useful for demonstrating some concepts, like loops, for example. But at the end of the day, setting up your own IDE and coding in it are still very satisfying. So if you want to do that, go for it. I guess a tip would be to start with popular ones, since it's likely that they're beginner-friendly and have a lot of online documentation. Okay, that's it for today's video. Next time, we'll have a look at programming languages. For now, take care.